Well, now to talk about what you just heard, which is the ban on night grazing. We still have Mr. Muhammad Labar here with us. Many will always ask, why now? Why did you decide to ban night grazing now?
Thank you very much. Why now? It has gotten to the extent that we have to take the bulls by the horn to make sure there's sanity, there's peace in respect of this business, the cattle herders rearing in all over the country. Our national executive have to open it loud and mandate us to go nooks and crannies of this country to discuss with our members and to sanitize them and give them this information that this is what to do. Because we don't want the name being painted most times, herders, farmers. The commodity itself is a very essential commodity. Are we talking about the crops or the animals production? We need to be in peaceful so that there will be food on our table.
Don't you think that if this announcement had come when that time the vision was loudest, as something needed to be done, you'd have gotten a lot of support from a lot of people? Don't you think that that could have happened earlier?
No, even now, we got support from a lot of people. Why is that there is no reason for going out earlier if there is no issue and if there's no problem around this in the activities. It's yet now that we have to come out and say it because these are processes that we looked at. We need to go into and make sure we maintain peace in all status quo.
So let me sorry, Chimele. This issue you must have, must have given the whole organization serious concerns. There had been herders for many decades in Nigeria. We didn't hear about these farmer-herder clashes until very, very recently, suggesting to some people, and I think you have also said it as well before, that there are different categories of people who are into this business, and consequently, there is the likelihood that those who are perpetrating this violence or this unrest may not be members of your association. Have you been able to track the people who are perpetrating this evil?
Actually, silently, it has been there for a very long time. The herders and the farmers in between them, right from day one. Because in any part of the country where these animals are just allowed to go freely without control, they can do and undo, which sometimes it happens on circumstance. And if care is not taken, it's just been allowed that way, it will escalate. While it's escalating these days, I mean, why it's so loud this time around is, mostly at this point in time, many people are going into farming. And also many people are going into production of cattle. And how much land do we have? Look at the statistics. Getting involved in all this in large quantity and demanding at the point we are. Definitely, things has to be looked at. The volume of discussion, I mean, what have you have to come up instantly. It has to be in a large noise. And this is why we move at this right time to go into it, find this means of discussing with our members or giving out this kind of information, or in other ways discussing with the security agencies and state governments, telling them that this is what we can do to resolve these conflicts or the wrong ways that things have been going. In other sense, our members are also giving out information on how to go on modern ranching. We are doing that as well. It's not all about restricting the cattle movement or not allowing them to graze by nighttime. There are a lot of activities that we start not until we go on media and start voicing it out. We do a lot of things with the security agencies, with the herders themselves, the environment they find themselves, the farmers themselves, mostly in the Southwest. The security challenges we have in Southwest, we discuss it with the host communities. We discuss it with the security agencies. We discuss it with the traditional rulers. The farmers themselves, the farmers' heads, so many stakeholders are involved. We do things together so that we have peaceful coexistence amongst us.
All right, let's get to Abuja for some more perspectives on this matter. Markwe.
Yes, we have with us Zacharys Ange Gundu, who is a professor of archaeology from the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. Prof, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. It's the dry season now. I mean, Hamilton usually ushers in the very dry season, which sees herders come even further down south, in search of pasture and water. And there are fears that conflict could arise again as a result of this particular move, perhaps realizing that Miyetti Allah has come up with these guidelines. What did you think when you heard the guidelines to be passed down to herders at the grassroots level?
Well, when I heard the guidelines, the first thing that came to my mind was maybe we're making some progress. But after I turned it over, I discovered that the progress is not as much as one would expect for two reasons. Regulation is basic to any economic activity, especially economic activities that have a potential for disruption. And if economic activities have a potential for disruption, you don't leave the issue of regulation to the people who are benefiting from such activities. So if there's need for regulation, I would rather that government is the one regulating. Because if government is the one regulating, there will be sanctions. Now that it is Miyetti that is regulating, what happens when people, their members decide to graze in the night? Who is going to sanction them? That question is not properly answered, in my opinion. Then, of course, this
has it even been asked? I mean, is the question...
Well, I really don't know whether Nigerians are ready to ask it.
Yes.
But there's also a second problem. Miyetti Allah is just one of several Fulani bodies. If they are saying our members should not graze in the night, what is Kautahore saying of their members? What is Danala saying of their members? What of some of these Fulani vigilante groups saying of their members? So there are issues. I think it is better to consider this holistically, and my idea is to get government to get involved in the regulation of livestock production.
Yeah, but some people will argue that, in some instances, self-regulation is one of the best ways to go. Because if you are able to identify the problem as a body and come up with solutions for your members and regulations for your members, the chances of success are far higher than coming from say, an authority like government?
No, if you have a situation in Nigeria where you have so many groups who are farmers, and then so many groups who have cattle, and all of them are saying that this is our way of life, we cannot ask them to self-regulate. It's just like if you went into Abuja now, and you say that every person who is a driver who is driving on our Abuja roads should regulate himself. No, it wouldn't work that way. The proper thing to do is to have government regulate driving in Abuja, to have government regulate other economic activities, so that we will know upfront what is expected of every stakeholder, somebody who is going into the business. We know upfront that, yes, you can do this, you cannot do this. And if you don't do what we want you to do, you will be properly sanctioned for the benefit of society.
But do you see a situation where this could have a domino effect? Where, for instance, one group has adopted it. It is a dominant group. It was not until recently we started hearing of Miyetti Allah, Kautahore, for instance. And I think that those divisions happened much later. But the prominent and we would say most distinct body that everybody was aware of was Miyetti Allah, that's Makban, the one of Nigeria. Do you think that it could have a domino effect on the rest of the groups who, for instance, could now say, well, this is what Miyetti Allah MACBAN, the MACBAN part of it is doing, perhaps we should also follow suit. Maybe this is a good way to go.
It could, but even if you stop night grazing, that is just a quarter of the problem solved. Because half of the time, if you go to many parts of the country, the herders graze openly on people's farms. And if you dare confront them, they are going to overrun you. They have done this even in the open. So when they say we don't graze in the night, it's just part of the small problem. I'm not sure whether they are prepared. The challenge we are facing is people who think that the bushes and the farms belong to them. In places like Benue, where they have grazed on people's farms, they call the yams indomie for the cattle. And they do this very openly. They do this in the daytime.
I'm looking at a situation now where, because that's just, as you said, is a small part.
Yes.
Where they also talked about children.
Yeah.
Here in the Federal Capital Territory, even right here around where office is situated, you will see children guiding cattle.
Yes.
And it ought not to be.
Yes.
So when you hear them say that children should not be the ones in charge of livestock, don't you think that is a mighty big step, considering how rampant this problem is and the fact that these children are also deprived of an education?
It is, but that is where I think it would have been better if government came in. Now, if children are grazing, what does Miyetti do to them? What sanctions can Miyetti or MACBAN give to somebody who allows the children to graze? We have made this point before, that what the herders are doing is just exploiting child labor. And if that point is properly made and it sinks into government, it is the responsibility of government to make sure that no Nigerian, no matter how powerful, is able to exploit the child for the labor the child may give. So I still believe that it is government that is supposed to be doing this. It is not
government
MACBAN.
at what level now? That will be the question, because we have seen attempts by state governments to try and regulate the activities of herdsmen, or even just grazing. Usually it comes in form of prohibiting open grazing.
Yes.
And has that been effective?
Well, in Benue, where I'm very familiar with, at least we are seeing the semblance of sanity. If you go to Benue now, there are chances that you will see some cows that have been arrested with their owners or with people guiding them. And once they are arrested, they will just have to pay the charges, the proper charges before they are released. So I see the Benue model as a model that can help. And my idea is governments or state governments should try as much as possible to emulate what Benue has done.
It hasn't come without its own criticisms, though.
Of course, it hasn't come without criticisms, but the people criticizing it, they are not fair, because this is a government that cannot secure life and property as far as the clashes between herders and farmers is concerned, as far as banditry is concerned, as far as kidnappings are concerned. So if government cannot do this, and you don't blame government, the police is ill-trained, they don't have the manpower, the army is not really supposed to be interested in internal security. So if we don't have the capacity to secure our people against each other, it is better we make laws that at least would restrain you and me from trying to attack each other because we are trying to earn a living.
Let me flip this back to Lagos and hear what our guest in Lagos has to say about consequences if the regulations being proposed by MACBAN are violated. Chamberlain?
All right. So what would the consequences be?
Thank you. You know, MACBAN as a body has gone a long way to discuss with the state government or even the federal government itself in actions of regulating. Though we don't look inward of extorting money or sanction of fees. All we believe in discussion and tell them that this is exactly what they have to do. And I believe with the voice we go about, as far as MACBAN is concerned, the voice is listened to.
All right. Before, speak to this mindset thing, because something, it's not just about the night banning of grazing. What does that do to mindset? What about those who genuinely or innocently think that if I see an open place, no house, nothing, that I can go and graze? So if you tell me, don't graze at night, does that change the person's mindset? But he could go and do the same thing during the day.
No, actually, if you go above the law, the law will take its cost. You've been informed in all manipulations that this is prohibited.
So now you tell your members, don't graze on people's farms.
That is it.
There's one other issue that I wanted to take you up on before we went to Abuja.
Yeah.
That's that of children grazing who do not have sufficient control of the cattle. How are you addressing that?
Actually, underage grazing, it's also been prohibited. We advise our members not to use underage. In wars where these are underage, sometimes are allowed to learn or train for this grazing. They are advised to go with the elder ones. If you want to employ 2 or 3 when they are off from schools, during the holidays, that they want to come and train. Because you have to train them right when they are young sometimes for them to understand what it is, how to convey or how to guide the animals. By this process of training, you advise the elder ones to guide them and protect them and show them where to go and where not to go. Because they are as well young, they can be easily manipulated and leave the cattle to go and graze on farmlands. This is what we do, and we advise them. We talk to them as well. We also advise our members to take their children to school.
All right. That's a fine place to live it. Mohammed Labar is the chairman, Southwest Zone of MACBAN. That's Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Markwa?
Yeah, thank you. We still have Professor Gundu here with us. I was going to ask you, we saw how big a controversy was it Ruga was last year. Yeah. And it would seem that there's been some truce, so to speak, even though we don't know where precisely the status of that is. But do you think that involvement of government in also providing the right environment for us to be able to grow cattle and livestock in general will be one of the solutions that we should be exploring?
Yeah, I think it is good for government to regulate. It is good for government to regulate. The modern state is based on personal property and regulation. So it is good for government to make the laws that will enable people who want to go into livestock production to go into that process without disrupting the society generally. And states that have gone towards...
You say without disrupting. The thing is this, we already have a custom, or will I say a tradition, or a way of doing things. What we're trying to do is change the way. Isn't that a disruption already by itself?
Well, it's not a disruption because every person changes their way of life, provided it's for the general good. Provided it's for the general good.
That change is a disruption, isn't it?
Yeah, that change is a disruption, but it's not bloody. It's not bloody. It's not bloody. If you ask somebody who is driving on the right to start driving on the left, because you know that it is good to regulate and drive on the left. Certainly you are going to save lives. There will be a disruption. People may not like it, but certainly it will be better that there is a law and every person understands the law.
Well, Prof, we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Zacharys Ange Gundu is a professor of archaeology at the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria.